Success in business and the attention that comes along with it can be a double-edged sword. On the one side, you have all the abundance that success creates. In my case, by 1997, SHERPA Pet Trading Company employed dozens of people and had helped thousands travel safely and comfortably with their pets. This created many positives in my life and the lives of many others. Over the next decade, I continued to appear on television and radio and be featured in magazines and catalogs. I sold hundreds of thousands of SHERPA bags and became a recognized global advocate and spokesperson for improved pet travel. I had found what I was meant to do in the world. My vision for my company's continued growth and development was a continuing process. However, there was another, more sinister side. The difficulties caused by the evil, dog-eat-dog aspects of the business world was a sharp sword indeed.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Cheryl Benton, and I am so excited to welcome you all here this evening for an exciting celebration and a conversation with Gayle Martz. She's the founder of the SHERPA bag. If you have a small pet and you travel, you probably have a SHERPA bag. And she's the author of It's in the Bag, How to Turn a Passion into a Business. Next month marks the 2-year anniversary of the Three Tomatoes book publishing, which is actually an extension of the Three Tomatoes lifestyle guide for grown-up women. And in just yesterday, actually, we published our 19th book, and Gayle's audiobook is actually our 4th audiobook, and we have 3 more waiting in the wings. So it's been really exciting for us, and we're so excited to be able to talk about Gayle's book tonight. And now I want to bring in my dear friend, Valerie Smaldone. Hi, Valerie.
Hey, Cheryl. So much fun doing this.
I know. So Valerie is also not only a great friend, but a longtime partner at the Three Tomatoes, but now she's also my audiobook producing partner at the Three Tomatoes book publishing. And let me tell you all a little bit more about Valerie. She's a 5-time Billboard award-winning media personality. She's a celebrity interviewer. She is without a doubt one of the top voiceover people in the country, and that was her voice you just heard on our little video trailer there. She's also an actress, a producer. She does so many things. It makes my head spin some days. And she also heads up, as I said, the audiobook of the Three Tomatoes. So before we bring in our special guest tonight, though, I just wanted to talk a little bit about audiobooks because they are the fastest growing part of the publishing industry right now. And they're actually selling far more audiobooks these days than ebooks, which I really find extraordinary. So Valerie, can you talk a little bit about what it takes to produce a really good audiobook? Because it's such a different medium than a print book when you're reading. And also why you chose to personally narrate Gayle's story.
Well, thanks, Cheryl, and it's really a pleasure being your partner in this venture. And we went out of the gate running last year during the pandemic and produced 2 books, one of which won an award.
Yes.
And so, continuing on with Gayle's book, when it came across my desk, rather than just produce it and cast it, which is part of the process, I was fascinated by the book myself because I'm an avid pet lover, passionate pet lover, and this book is not only about pets, but it's about entrepreneurship, about a woman with really no resources and no means launching a new product category. So it checked all the boxes for me and my interest. I enjoyed reading the book. And so I said, oh, I'm going to narrate this myself. I'm not giving it away. But each time, to your point of what does it take to narrate and produce an audiobook, it's extraordinarily labor intensive. In the industry, the average time it takes to have one finished hour is 3 to 4 hours because it's recording it, it's making it perfect, it's listening back, it's editing it. So it's a very labor intensive process. Audiobook narrators today must be actors as well as great communicators. They have to have the hat of a director, a producer, a technical producer, an editor. So all those skills are involved with producing an audiobook. And once you go through it and you have the product, it's like birthing a baby. It's very satisfying to have done it, to go through the process. And so I'm thrilled that the audiobook is now available. And you mentioned that it's a very fast-growing part of the industry. Sure, it's easy to consume. You can be driving and hearing an audiobook. You don't have to be completely consumed with reading it. And it's another way to get entertainment. So it's a wonderful field, and I'm glad to be doing it with you.
And entertainment is really key. And I think anyone out there who's listening, who's thinking about doing an audiobook or knows someone who's thinking about it, that the entertainment part of this is so important, because when you read a book, you're reading the book for the story. But when you're listening to an audiobook, you're not only listening to the story, you do want to be entertained. So it's a very different medium. So it's really important, I would tell anybody out there, to really look at professional narrators, unless you've decided to, tell a story yourself.
Yeah. And even in the producing of the book, you may have to change some of the wording, because when you're speaking to a reader who's reading with eyes, it's one thing. Now you're speaking to people's ears, and it's a very intimate relationship because you're in their ears. And so you just create that very comfortable space as you tell the story.
Yeah, and you did such a great job on Gayle's book. And now I'm going to bring Gayle Martz herself in here. Welcome, Gayle.
Well, welcome, ladies. My pleasure to be with you.
Well, we're so excited to be here to celebrate your book. I mean, your story and your accomplishments are so inspiring to so many people, and we're so happy to be able to celebrate tonight together. And I'm going to be going back into the studio in just a couple of minutes while you two have the conversation, and I'll sort of monitor our Facebook group. And by the way, we invite everyone to leave comments. And another important thing is that we are going to be giving away 3 copies of the audiobook. And in order to enter to win, you just have to write in the comments, "I want the book." And after the event, we'll be picking 3 lucky winners. So I'll see you all back here in just a little bit.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you. And it is my pleasure to formally introduce you, Gayle Martz, because Gayle, you are a woman who is a passionate animal advocate, a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, as I mentioned, a photographer too. That's a field that you were involved with, a former airline hostess, which we'll talk about in a minute. What is an airline hostess and not a stewardess, and why was that the term that was used? So that you were flying around the world. And then you developed in your life the SHERPA bag, the first officially approved soft-sided pet carrier in the world allowed on board airlines, and you changed policy on airlines. So Gayle, in addition to all this, you decide, I'll write a book. How did you make this thought? I have a huge overflowing plate, but I'm going to write a book. Why not?
Well, I think it's very important, because it was always a story that I wanted to share with the world. And the best way to do that is to have the narrator that reads the book perfectly as you do. And I'm totally reliving every single experience I had. But the book had to be written to tell the story. And then when people can listen to you narrate my story, I'm reliving through you the story that I lived. So it's important, I think, if you can inspire and motivate others that, well, what am I going to do when I don't know what I'm going to do? And how do I do it when I don't even know what I'm doing? And I think it's really important to see there's always a beginning that you can start with. And when you had read the book, what do you start with? No home, no money, no job. I mean, there's different issues and different things. And I think it appeals to so many different people, whether it's educational, entertainment, or a way to continue being an entrepreneur and do what you love?
Well, at the core of the book and the core of your life story is this tremendous passion for animals, your affinity with pets. Tell me about that. And were you always a pet lover since a child? And what is it that you get from pets and animals that you don't get from people, two-legged people?
That's exactly right. Well, the four-legged has the unconditional love, and it could be in two-legged as well. But what a cat, what a dog gives you is unconditional love. More so dogs, I think, because the cat has the opportunity to just roam free, do what it wants to do, and then you each just join in your lives to share your life. And I have loved animals forever. So it just happened that when I was able to get a dog, Sherpa the dog came into my life, and she was the dog that I had this great idea and created the Sherpa bag for people that really wanted to travel and be with their pets, or not even to be able to travel, just to be safe at the home or in a car. And Sherpa is on the screen now. So she's a Lhasa Apso. She came to me when she was 10 weeks old and lived to be 17 years and 3 months. So she had a great life, and she's created the original Sherpa bag with me.
Mm-hmm. And she really became your emotional support animal during a very difficult time. There is a formula you kind of created that I read in your book, I narrated your book, about how to lessen the blow of the eventual trauma of losing a pet. That's one of the hardest things to do. We know that we're mostly going to outlive our pets. And you have an idea of how to help that transition that I thought was very smart.
Well, because the pain, I hear my world of people that love the animals and then have a pet, and then when the pet must go to, it's called the Rainbow Bridge, and it's where they're waiting for their owners, if you can believe that story, over the Rainbow Bridge. But I think what happens is making sure that you never want your pet to be in any amount of pain. And you will know when the time is that they do have to go, or it just happens. But I think what took place with me, Sherpa was 10 years old. I brought in Sune, another dog. So then Sherpa could go backstage for a bit, and then Sune came forward and took over the modeling and the photographs and then the demonstrations that were done. So you'll never replace a dog that you have had, and you'll have a void that will always be there, but there's never a limit to love. And then another dog comes in, and you need to give that dog the love that they deserve and you deserve.
So the idea is at the 10-year mark, when they're starting to get into their senior years, you bring in another pet so that you will have your emotional support when pet number one moves on to the Rainbow Bridge. I thought that was a really smart formula.
Well, it's very important, because I'll never forget, when that other second dog, Sune, had left, and I was just here crying. And my mother comes in and she says, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And, I told her, what had happened. And it's like, you'll go through that, but take the joy, take the gratitude, and just know you do the very best that you can do for your pet and for you. And it's just a fabulous, loving connection that you have with your loving four-legged companion.
The stories about pets and advocacy and loving animals and caring for them. And it also is about you starting out as a hostess on an airline. Now, I always thought the word was stewardess back in the day, but there's a distinction because you were on a specific airline. Tell me about that and tell me about your early days in the sky.
Oh, yes, there I was. Well, when I was 20, I just couldn't wait. And I had to wait until I was 20 to become a TWA hostess. So I had applied and was granted the opportunity. And then when I was 20 years old, I went back to training in Kansas City and had my training to be an airline hostess. Now, at that time in the industry, it was only women. So the women could be a hostess, but then 5 years after that, the men came in. So then they became, and we all became, flight attendants. So that's what it is called to this date, because it's involving men and women, boys and girls. And it's a wonderful, wonderful group of living life people.
But the word hostess was only specific to the airline TWA,
Right.
whereas all the other airlines use the word stewardess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it turned later in the time, flight attendant. So then you had the men and the women, but it was TWA that I had worked with, and I was a TWA hostess and had just fabulous experiences, as you're reading about.
And it was there that you were very cognizant and aware of pets traveling on planes. What was bothering you about what you saw and that you wanted to shift it for when you traveled?
Well, then it was most of the times a pet couldn't get on the plane on most airlines. And then if they could, on some airlines, it was in the very small hard plastic carrier that would need to be underneath the seat in front of you. So you had a hard plastic carrier with a dog or a cat in it at the time. And of course, the usual things are happening. But it's very important to look at the time frame of where we were. Hard plastic with injection molding was what was being done. But at that time also, the soft-sided luggage was coming into the world, and people didn't have to have hard luggage anymore. So the soft-sided was lighter weight, more comfortable, easy to carry. And when I designed the Sherpa bag, I made it lightweight, comfortable, stylish, and of course people always say the ventilation, but it has everything that makes it perfect for the pet on the go, or a home within a home, or just being for a drive. You know, the Sherpa bag is perfect.
It is indeed. It's funny, the other day I was at a Petco and I checked, and there it was, the Sherpa bag on the shelf, and I just waved at you, Gayle, and it was nice to see it.
Yeah.
The actual creation of the Sherpa bag took place with a backdrop of trauma for you. You had a terrible incident that happened in your life, and you moved forward with really no resources and created this company. Tell us about what happened to you in your life, and then how you got out of it and started to work on this project.
Yes, I was. I had been with the airlines, and I had been doing the photography, and I had been involved with my fiance for a period of time. And it started out, the book, well, it didn't start out this way, but it ended in a tragedy for him and for me as well. But for him, if you could just be so lucky to just go to sleep and not wake up, that's probably the best thing that could ever happen to that person. But for the other people around, for me in my life, it was, oh, okay. Oh, wow. I was just really what am I going to do now? I didn't have a job with the airlines. They'd gone on strike. I had this tragedy to deal with. And then what happened was, which before that actually happened, the best thing happened in my life in September. Sherpa the dog came into my life. And then the tragedy happened in December. And so I had this little dog, and that dog became the most important thing to me in my life to help me to get my life back, get my confidence back, do something that I meant, I knew that was meant to be done, that other people could really benefit from having their four-legged companion be able to travel with them.
So Sherpa gave you a purpose.
Yes, a big purpose. She really did. And she was with it, just unconditional love all the time. And when we speak about using the different things that I do, she was my best model. As a photographer, Sherpa was the best model for the Sherpa bag. And she was trained, and she could move her head the right way, and her tongue would be this way, and I would do that. And I'd be taking a photograph of Sherpa, and I could just do it perfectly because she was the best model. So my photography, there I had, okay, the Sherpa bag, which when I had come up with this great idea, well, people can always have a great idea, but then you need to lay a very strong foundation. So I had a great idea, and I needed to lay a strong foundation. So first I had to create the product. And of course it had to be called the Sherpa bag. And then the product was created. And what's the next step? Well, then you need to sell the product and do, well, you have to manufacture and take care of all of the different parts of starting a business, growing a business, registering trademarks, and business involvement. That it's very important. I had emotional intelligence that I was using from my heart and my soul, loving the animals, and then loving fashion, and always being involved with fashion. So I created the soft-sided pet carrier that was a fashion that you could carry with you, with your pet being comfortable inside. And no one would ever really know there was a pet there, but it always would go with what you were wearing and just be safe, comfortable, and stylish.
And you mentioned you had emotional intelligence, but I don't know that you had the training or the information as to how to build a business. And you really worked out of a small apartment. You know, you had boxes everywhere.
Oh,
you
yes,
were doing
right.
all aspects of this. Gayle, how did you, step by step, figure out what you needed to do? How much trial and error was there? How many tears did you shed? I'd love to get to the heart of really the early days of this business and how difficult and challenging it must have been for you.
Yes, because I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't know how to do what it was, but I knew I made a commitment that I had to do it. And so there was Sherpa the dog, and then I had worked in the handbag industry and as a photographer professionally for the Lanvin, Valentino top brands. And I asked the president of the company, I really must do this, but I don't know where to go. And so he started me with a reputable manufacturer. And I think that's one of the things that is so important when starting a business, is to make sure the person you are dealing with, the people you are dealing with, are all completely reputable, checked out, and just be very careful.
Was that one of your gurus or angels that helped you start your business?
Yes. So that's how I started with them. And then I had people, the world of pet lovers is just worldwide. It is a global, it's a global world of people that love their pets. And so when I started, I had my mother, who was my main best friend, mother, business partner. So she was with me for the most important part that I couldn't do, and that is keeping your financial house in order. And that's one of the most important things you can do and you must do, is have everything documented and everything, here's this style number, here's this cost, here's this pricing, here's that, here's all of the different sales prices, which I had to learn about. And because my expertise is more creative as opposed to being of the financial accounting background. So Connie, who was always called Connie after we had started, because I worked with my mother, and then she's my business partner, she's my best friend, and she is my mother. So that was a really very big asset to me. I couldn't have done it without her. I really could not. And I'm so grateful that she was with me. And she would give me, she would teach me, okay, well, here's my little black 39-cent ledger. And then you keep the records. Oh, okay, here are my first stores: Bloomingdale's, Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue, Hallmarker Schlemmer, the Ritz Hotel. I mean, it was really fabulous. It was really exciting. And New York just loved it, because in New York, the density of people with pets is right there beside you. So I was grateful that I started in New York.
What's astonishing to me as you're telling this story, and as I read your story, is that this was done before internet, before social media, which would make life so much easier for you to gather your pet friends and share this information. And you literally had to walk into stores, Gayle, with your prototype and talk to the right person to get it picked up. As you said, there's manufacturing and then there's sales. Talk to me about that process a little bit, what that was like going into these big stores in New York.
Well, fortunately, I had my business partner, SHERPA, with me at all times. And she was in the original SHERPA bag, which is still the #1 in the world. And so, but you don't have to announce that you have a dog in the bag. It's that low profile that I've always positioned people to keep when traveling with a pet or taking a pet wherever you go. So SHERPA would be with me, and I'll never forget the one time I went into American Kennels in New York City. And I walked in and I had SHERPA in the bag, of course. And I asked the woman, would you be interested in purchasing this bag? And she looks at me and she said, well, it's used. And I said, no, I'm bringing these bags in. This is my own bag, but I would like to have it in your stores. And they ended up being one of the best sellers of the pet stores in New York City, which were not that many at the time. But anyway, that was the pet store. And then Bloomingdale's, when I went into Bloomingdale's, it was so exciting to me. And I said to the buyer, now I could just stand here and sell thousands of these. And she said, because you are your market. So with that right there, that was like, yes, I am my market. And I want to carry my pet and have my pet with me. And I want it to be stylish and comfortable and ventilated and come with me wherever I go. So anyway, I was very grateful. And then in Macy's, I was in Macy's too. So everybody had to set me up with starting the business way back when. And that's what I did. I would go in and I would just learn, and I would do the very best that I could do to make everything great. I had a great product. I had it in the warehouse. And then I would drive the 1995 or whatever it cost then U-Haul pick it up at my No Frills warehouse and drop it off at the different stores, or wait in the line with the trucks. There's this woman in the white U-Haul van, and I'm just there with these boxes in the van and the Sherpa, the dog, next to me.
So you were the truck driver, you were the salesperson, you were the manufacturer, the photographer. It was one-stop shopping with you, Gayle.
Exactly.
I would also say that Sherpa did help sell that tremendously. Sherpa was your sales associate in the early days, for sure.
No,
for sure.
She was the best model, and she demonstrated perfectly.
So then you have this wonderful product and you say, okay, I want to get this on board airlines. And you not only did that, you changed policy. And it was really, wasn't it step by step, airline by airline, right?
Yes.
Did you begin with TWA, your own airline?
No, not at all. No, that was, it's like, again, how do I do this when I don't know what I'm doing? I mean, yes, I've been in the airline industry, but I did not know anyone at any of the other companies that I was working with. And I would try to find the right person. How do you do that? But one of the things that was very important that we did, because that's what you had to do then, were the mailings. So where Connie would address, 10,000 letters and stamps and do all of that. I mean, now we can do it all on the computer, but it wasn't the same back in the pioneer days of my beginning. And I would continuously keep growing and learning. And then the tools, I was so grateful when I could finally get a computer. A Toshiba computer came out, cost an absolute fortune. And I finally could get a computer and start learning how to do it that way as well. But it was all written down in a ledger, here's a pencil, here's this, change that, add that, but keep track of everything.
Mm-hmm. And so then you were able to get meetings with these decision makers at airlines.
Yes, I did. And I would go into each particular airline and I would meet, let's take Delta Airlines, which was the last major airlines I changed the policy on. And I had thousands of customers, and then people that would write to me, because I was my own 800 number. So I had to answer the phone and do all of the, secretarial things as well. But so I listened to what my customers really wanted, and I knew what I really needed as my market. And so on Delta Airlines, it's like, now how am I going to get to the right person? How do I get to the right person here? I just didn't know anyone in that particular airline, or in any airline to speak of. But what I did on that day, it was Secretary's Day, and I called the secretary to the president of Delta Airlines, and I told her my story, and that I had created the Sherpa bag and had, these were all the attributes of the bag and the product, and how they could have better service and more revenue by approving and allowing this pet carrier on board their airplane. It had to meet all the rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. And I knew every rule and regulation because I wrote them out with each airline. So, number one, it has to fit underneath the seat in front of you. So way back then, you had a lot more room underneath the seat in front of you.
Sure.
Because we didn't have all the electronics. You have absolutely no room underneath the seat in front of you now. But the Sherpa bag, it conforms to the underneath the seat dimensions. Now, if you have two pets like that, that's Sherpa and Sune, you have to be, it's one pet per person. So I had my dearest friend who would be traveling with me, and one dog would be with her, and then the other would be with me. So that's how two dogs are on a plane with me.
Amazing. So with all of this, Gayle, you learned a lot of lessons, correct?
Oh, yes, continuously.
And in your book too, there's a summation at the end of each chapter with sort of an understanding of what you can take away. So just share some of the lessons that you learned during this amazing time of building a new product category, getting the item sold, getting the policy changed. What did you learn in business, and what did you learn about yourself that you did not know?
Well, I learned all of the follow-up, follow-through commitment that was needed to give 100% of the best customer service and answer the questions. And then when it got to a point that it was growing too much, then I had to be able to start giving different parts of the company away for others to be able to handle, like answering my 800 number. I really couldn't do that anymore. So I found a service up in Maine where I had customer service, and I would go and demonstrate and give them all of the information that they needed to be able to answer the phone, to be able to answer the questions. And basically the questions then are the same questions now. And it's like, well, does my pet fit in the bag as a punishment for them? But it's very simple. The bag is really a home for the pet. It's that den environment that they love so much. So it's just association and making it so that they know, well, that's the bag. I get to go, I get to go, or I'm just going to be comfortable and just hang out in here. It's all about safety.
And what did you learn about yourself as you went through this incredible building of a business with the challenges you had with no resources? What did you learn about Gayle Martz?
I learned that I could be the best that I could be, but there were things that I didn't know how to do. And then when I was able to get professional help, that was the most important thing that I could have. Was here's somebody, well, there was my mother, Connie, who could help with the financial part and do the financial part. Then there's the people that I needed in sales. So that would help me with the sales. I had done the different accounts, and then I needed people to oversee. And it was just an abundance, a potpourri of different lessons that I had in my life. But I think when you do what you love, it is part of you, and you do what you love for a reason. Because for me, I love the animals. People love their animals. It's that unconditional love, and you really wanted them to be with you. So people would say to me when they would see me with SHERPA in her bag, oh, wow, I would really love to have my animal with me. So all the people in the world were my audience that helped me to keep affirming that what I was doing was what I was truly meant to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Gayle. It's amazing how you were able to meld all of the pieces of your life into this product that you created. I want to bring this up to the present, which is the pandemic. And last year, and how travel was stalled. And of course, nobody was traveling on airlines. But people were traveling in cars much more. And the need actually was just as high for the bags to travel with your pet as before on an airline. So talk to me about the different uses of the bag, why people should have it, even for emergency circumstances. As we're seeing around the world, how there are so many crazy circumstances happening.
Exactly. This is like, what is this time in our life? This is even a more important time to have the SHERPA bag or the pet carrier. I like the soft-sided pet carrier, but then you can also have a hard plastic carrier as well. It's like I say to other women, how many purses do you have? I mean, is it too much to have too many bags for your pet? No. So it's like this period of time, it was very valuable because that bag in your own home is safety within the home. Now, this week, you see the different things that happened with floods, with fires, with all of that. And if you can carry your pet to safety, it is what you must do. Or the bigger dogs will be able to walk. But the cats, it's like it's the cat's out of the bag into the logo with Sherpa. So the cat is so important because really half the customers are cats and have had the dogs, and there's other animals as well, but those are the major pets that are traveling in the Sherpa bags, the majority. And so it was so important that people would know, if you keep this bag in your home, it is safety for your pet. And let's just say there's construction going on. There's loud noises. There's lightning. There's thunder. Things that scare the dog or the cat. But this is their den, so they feel so safe in that den. And that's why it really works in the home. You do not have to get on an airplane because that's only a very small percentage. Driving in a car is another very small percentage. The biggest percentage would be having the bag in your home, just as a home within a home for your pet. And then with everything that's going on in the world, you want to be able to carry your pet to safety, or, just go for a drive wherever you're going, because you're going to take your pet with you. When you're so much in love with your pet, you like to have them with you, and they like to be with you too.
You really gave me a great tip, because I have a cat who I adore, my best friend, and he hates to get in the car. So you said, leave the carrier part of your living room. So they're used to it, they see it, and it's not that fear when you go and get it from the closet and they hear the rattle of the of the bag. He's going into it much easier now than I've ever had before. It's a brilliant and easy tip.
Oh, yes. But see, the thing is, the other tip I tell people is going to the veterinarian. Now, if the pet is going to associate that bag with just going to the veterinarian, and then they get a shot and then they have their teeth pulled or whatever has to be done, you want it to be a pleasant experience for them. Of course, it's like the bags are all over the internet. It just amazes me when I look on the, say, Sherpa bag, and then it just pops up all over the place. But it's get two bags, and then one bag's in one room, and you're not. It's how many purses do you have? It's the same story, and so there was, where I brought fashion into this completely, because I have always loved fashion, and I would be over in Paris and I would be at the different shows and seeing what was the new trend and what was happening. So I would design different collections each year. And then the fashion is, we have to have spring, we have to have summer, there's winter, then there's things to keep them warm. So it's really making it a perfect home for your pet wherever you're going. In a car.
And in a car or wherever. And with that, the product line has diversified. It's not just a carrier any longer. You have items for people too.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, you're absolutely right. So when I'm traveling, I always need to have my, you have your passport, so I know my passport's there. But, I'm traveling domestically. I have my license here. But then I seem to need glasses. So I had designed the ID to go. And then you could put your glasses in this ring, and then you don't lose it. And then I have a pen that's here, and whatever else I need during I cannot live without this. So the ID to go has really been important to me. And then my cards, of course, are in there as well. But it serves a purpose. And then in the back with the zipper and that, you have everything that you need, and it's right here. Because when you're traveling, just to the market, I want to make sure I have the right cards. I want to make sure I have my glasses. I want to make sure. So I like the opportunity of being prepared. And then because I love designing the products that have a purpose, the ID to go came into play.
You have really expanded this idea from the very beginning of your pet carrier concept. And as I mentioned, the book has exists on many levels for pet lovers, for entrepreneurs. Talk to me, give me one really important tip for anybody who wants to start a business, passionate about an idea, thinks it's going to work, but doesn't really know how to move forward. What's the first thing that they should do, Gayle? You mentioned having the connections, which is very important. What else should they do?
Well, you might not have any connections, but you start with research. And it's like, what are you going to do until you've researched the market to see what is out in the marketplace and make sure that you're coming up with a solution to a void in the marketplace. So the void was, at that time, there wasn't a soft-sided pet carrier in the world. You could not get a pet on a plane. And so I had that void first to fill. And then the next one was traveling pet occupant safety. So I worked with the major automotive companies in Detroit on an ISOFIX seatbelt fastening for the dog. And I had built that into the bag so that they're safely seatbelted into the seat, because we all must wear seatbelts. That's has been going on for quite some time. So it was really just do the research and see what the void in the marketplace is. And your research is so much easier now because you're online. Go to Google, Safari, any of the many platforms that they have. Where is this globally? You know, because it is a global marketplace, and I can guarantee you when you come out with something, it will be copied. I mean, if it's great. My attorneys, you always have, it's very important to have attorneys. And so the attorney, I had to have a patent and trademark attorney because I needed to register my name so that they would be, you know, SHERPA was this name, and all of the names are registered globally. And I had my patent and trademark attorneys who helped me so much with that aspect. And then I remember them saying to me one day, nobody ever copied a bad idea. So it's like, okay, I had a great idea and I laid the foundation and I did it, but now you have to protect it. And that's with, you know, putting down everything so you're totally protected. Never sign a document without your attorney's approval. That's a very valid point to be made, because it really could tie you up forever and do things that you can't imagine. So I'm very grateful for my attorney, who will just love hearing what I just said, because he knows the story.
And that story is in the book. You learned that lesson the hard way. It's in the book, and it's in the audiobook, and you can go to GayleMartz.com to find out more. Of course, the audiobook is available, as you can see on the screen, on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. And also, Gayle and Cheryl, some books are being given away today, according to Cheryl, online. Correct, Cheryl?
Exactly. Well, first of all, I want to say, if this was such a treat for me to actually be able to sit backstage and listen and have the fabulous Valerie interviewing, because usually I'm the one doing that on a lot of our Facebook Live events. This was so wonderful. Gayle, you are such an inspiration. Anyone who is on so many levels, I mean, for pet advocacy, for pet lovers, but especially for entrepreneurs and people starting a business, you have just given a master's class, seriously, in what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and such important things to think about. And looking at the market, is there a problem? Does your idea solve a problem? Do you have a solution? Yeah. And I loved your thing about you know, protecting your idea and listening to your lawyers. And I just have to say, recently I saw the wonderful series on Netflix about Halston, who actually gave his name away. And
Yeah.
there's one part in the film that really struck me, and what you just said reminded me of that. And he was sitting with the people he'd given the name to, and his lawyers there. And he says, "Well, I'll just start something else with my name." And they're like, "You don't own your name anymore."
Yeah.
And afterwards, he was sitting with his lawyer, and he said, "Next time, remind me to actually read the contract." So that was such great advice that you have given to anyone here tonight who is actually thinking about starting a business. That's so critical. So first of all, I want to do a huge cheers to you, Gayle, for this fabulous book, and to Valerie, who not only is our audiobook producer, but who really wanted to narrate your audiobook story and has brought it to life in such a beautiful, beautiful way. And I thank you both. I'm very grateful to you both. Also, we do have a couple comments, and I just want to read them. Well, first of all, anyone who came in a little later, we are giving away 3 copies of Gayle's audiobook. All you have to do is write in the comments, "I want to win the book," and after the event is over, sometimes tomorrow we'll choose 3 people and you'll get the book. But we had some really lovely comments, and let me just read a couple of them. One is Robin Lieberman, who actually is another one of our authors. She wrote a fabulous novel called Searching for September. We're going to be doing a Facebook Live event with her in August. But she said, "Gayle, your words are heartwarming and undoubtedly resonate with many. I have 3 grand pups, and the attachments that my children have to their dogs are very intense. My daughter had to fly across the country with her large dog under the plane for 6 hours. She was terrified." And then she added, "You created a wonderful business. I would be a proud recipient of your book."
Oh, that's
I don't know. I think somehow, Robin, we might get that book.
Yeah, it was okay.
And from Ella Newman, wonderful program. So it's great to hear really all of these lovely comments from people who have been watching tonight as well. So again, as I said, if you want to win a copy, write it in the comments. I also just want to pop up again this slide, because if you want more information about Gayle Martz, go to gaylemartz.com. If you want more information about the Three Tomatoes Publishing, it's the threetomatoespublishing.com. So cheers to all of you. We thank you for joining us on a hot summer July evening. We're so happy to have you here. And thank you again. Thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
Success in business and the attention that comes along with it can be a double-edged sword. On the one side, you have all the abundance that success creates. In my case, by 1997, SHERPA Pet Trading Company employed dozens of people and had helped thousands travel safely and comfortably with their pets. This created many positives in my life and the lives of many others. Over the next decade, I continued to appear on television and radio and be featured in magazines and catalogs. I sold hundreds of thousands of SHERPA bags and became a recognized global advocate and spokesperson for improved pet travel. I had found what I was meant to do in the world. My vision for my company's continued growth and development was a continuing process. However, there was another, more sinister side. The difficulties caused by the evil, dog-eat-dog aspects of the business world was a sharp sword indeed.